All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in today. My name is Zonzi. I'm the host of the Showcase AMA series here on the Polygon Discord. Today we got Frankie, Oscar, and Barney coming in from Umbria. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah, we're great, thank you. How are you guys? Doing awesome.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Super excited to have you all here today. I always like to kick these off doing some like introductions. So why don't you tell us a bit about what your backstory is, what got you into crypto? What were you doing before? And like, I don't know, tell us a bit about your journey.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good to me. So, hey everybody, I'm Dev Barnyard or Barney. Up to you which one you'd like to call me. And I guess my crypto journey started probably around 2015 or maybe early 2016 when I was looking into forking some of the proof of work cryptocurrencies that were popular at the time, just to get like a bit of understanding on what all this stuff was all about. It was a very exciting time back then where cryptocurrencies were just starting to get into the mainstream and people really didn't know what they were or how they could be used. And it was all very primitive time for cryptocurrency. So my journey started there, and then as I got a little bit more understanding of the space over a few years, it became clear to me and my brother as well, Oski, that there was a lot of infrastructure missing from the cryptocurrency space, particularly on the interoperability side of things, and particularly on things that were facilitating the movement of assets between different blockchains. And so that's basically how the Umbrian network came about. It's basically a solution that Oski and I saw that even ourselves as developers and cryptocurrency enthusiasts needed to move assets around between different blockchains. And so what Umbria does is it facilitates the movement of cryptocurrency assets between different blockchains. And so that's pretty much how I got started into this space.
Yeah, well, I have a pretty similar story. Back in 2015, 2016, all these different proof of work cryptocurrencies were in vogue and people were really excited about Bitcoin. But as time progressed and as we spent more time in the space, it became pretty clear that, smart contracts and dApps based on Ethereum and Ethereum-like chains had a lot of opportunities for sort of complex financial instruments. But like Barney says, it was very difficult to move assets between Ethereum and other chains like Polygon. And so even though chains like Polygon were providing superior scaling, superior speed compared to Ethereum, superior cost compared to Ethereum, it's very difficult for people to get their assets over to Polygon. So we decided to invent a new kind of bridging paradigm, which is much faster and much cheaper than everybody else. And we built that platform, and we've been able to onboard a lot of people onto Polygon, but also other layer twos and scaling solutions like Avalanche, Arbitrum, Optimism, and things like that.
Sweet, that's super exciting. So, what is like the main difference for your bridging solution?
Yeah, so there's a few different like architecture styles for bridging. The traditional bridging model is like a minting and burning model, where a user will, let's say, for example, they want to move from Ethereum to Polygon. What they might do is lock up their assets on Ethereum in an Ethereum smart contract, and then assets are then either unlocked or minted on the other blockchain and given back to them. And that's kind of the bridging model of all of the traditional bridges in the space. But the Umbria network does things a little bit differently. Instead of having smart contracts that do minting and burning and locking and all that kind of thing, we have liquidity pools that are community run pools. And when somebody wants to bridge their assets from Ethereum to Polygon, they're essentially adding their asset into the liquidity pool on Ethereum. And then we have an Oracle system, which is just looking at the blockchain and noticing events that have been finalized on the blockchain. And once one of those events happens, runs another event on the other blockchain. In that instance, it would be a bridging event. And so a user is adding assets to one side of the bridge in the liquidity pool, and then they're receiving the comparable asset on the other blockchain from the other liquidity pool. And the great thing about that is it reduces the cost of bridging by a factor of 10 because the computational complexity of our model is far less expensive than the minting and burning model. The smart contracts required and the gas cost of a minting and burning bridge is so much more than the liquidity provisional model that we're using in the bridge, which means that we can keep the cost really low and basically remove that barrier to entry for all those people that couldn't afford to bridge, let's say, $50 worth of Ethereum when it was going to cost them in a traditional bridge, $100 to bridge is only costing $3 or $4 on average. So it really kind of opens the floodgates to a new a new sector of people who are wanting to bridge small amounts of cryptocurrency so that they can get involved in things like DeFi on layer 2 or NFT drops and that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. Really creative. When did you first launch this? Like, how long have you guys been live for?
Yeah, so it's been live for quite a while now. I think it was somewhere around February or March 2021 when we released the initial product.
I think that's right.
And since then, we've added a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that are eligible to be bridged, and also a whole host of different blockchains that we support as well. But we've definitely noticed that the Ethereum to Polygon bridge has been by far the most popular. And it seems that Polygon is the most well adopted well, not layer 2, but well adopted a scaling solution for Ethereum so far. And so we're very excited to see just how much growth we've had on that particular bridge. I think we've just ticked over 130,000 transactions now between Ethereum and Polygon, and so it's all going very well.
Yeah, that's incredible. So how many chains do you guys support in total?
I think we support about 7 chains. I can list them out and then we'll know for sure. So we have Ethereum to Polygon, Ethereum to Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum to Avalanche, Ethereum to Phantom, Ethereum to Arbitrum, and Ethereum to Optimism. So I forgot to count how many it was. I think like 7. But we're also expanding out to other chains like KuCoin Community Chain, Huobi Eco Chain, and some of the more exotic, less known, but potentially very exciting EVM compatible chains. And then a little bit further down the line, when Solana becomes a little bit more stable and we're a little bit less scared of it falling over, we'll be adding Solana and some of the more bespoke architectures that aren't necessarily EVM architectures, and really bring together all of the different flavors of blockchain and putting a layer on top of all of them so that they can all interoperate really beautifully. But for now, we've focused on EVM compatible chains, and we have those 7 there that are all available.
Yeah, and one of the things that's really exciting that we're going to be implementing in Q4 is essentially right now, our bridge, the main hub for our bridge is Ethereum. And the reason that we chose that particular blockchain as the hub for all of these other blockchains to bridge to is because Ethereum has the most legacy, it's the most battle tested, it's the most well adopted as well. But there are some drawbacks to that. So, for example, it's more expensive than, for example, Polygon or Avalanche or some of the other side chains to Ethereum. And so one of the things that we're really looking forward to doing quite soon in the future is using Polygon as the main hub, such that all of the bridging will bridge through Polygon instead of through Ethereum. And this is going to drastically reduce the cost of bridging, and we can relay that saving of cost to our users and make bridging a lot cheaper than it is right now for anyone who wants to move from a non-Ethereum chain to a non-Ethereum chain. Because right now you have to bridge through Ethereum to go from, for example, Polygon to Avalanche or Binance Smart Chain to Arbitrum. But soon, all of this bridging will be routed through Polygon, and that's going to drastically reduce the cost. We think Polygon is definitely the best solution for this because it's one of the most well-adopted blockchains in the space, and especially one of the most adopted EVM chains in space. And so we think that it's going to be a good user experience for our users because people are very used to Polygon. It's basically battle hardened now, and we think that it's definitely the best solution for us in terms of scalability and also cost to our users.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. Um, you could you tell us a bit about like your widget for the Umbria bridge?
Yeah, sure thing. So we noticed that a lot of NFT platforms that were popping up in the space and a lot of DeFi platforms that were popping up on Polygon had really great products, but they were kind of finding it difficult to engage with the broader cryptocurrency community who were more used to interacting with dApps on Ethereum. So they needed a way to bring people into Polygon, into their ecosystem, without having to send those people off to other platforms that they might not trust or really understand. So we developed a widget that any platform can put into their website and facilitate bridging from within their website, within their ecosystem, and make it feel like more of a seamless experience for their users all in one place. So we've partnered up with about 70 different DeFi and NFT platforms across time, and many of those platforms have now integrated our widget. And as a consequence of that, they also earn a referral bonus whenever anybody bridges using their widget on their website. So if someone comes along, uses their widget to bridge on their website, that platform will earn 0.1% of the total volume that's bridged through that widget. So it's also like a pretty nice revenue stream for all of these emerging NFT platforms. And also DeFi platforms as well. So that's been quite popular, and it's really sort of facilitated a lot of bridging from within a singular ecosystem without having to send users off to a different website, which can be quite scary for them.
Yeah, one of the things that we really think is important for the successful growth of crypto in general is making things more user friendly. And so creating this widget, one of the things we kept in mind is making sure that a platform could integrate this widget in a way where the users didn't really need to even know that they were using the Umbria bridge. All they needed to know was that they could go to these websites and click on the link to the widget, and then they could bridge from there. And so any platform that needs a bridging solution, we think this is probably one of the best bridging solutions because it doesn't require their users to actually move away from the ecosystem that they're in. And so it's just a much more seamless experience for the users and much less confusing.
Yeah, this is really cool, and I recognize a lot of your partners. I'm wondering if you'd like to tell us a bit more about like your partnerships and how you benefit from all of those.
Yeah, sure. So essentially, it's like a win-win scenario for everybody. And so basically, any platform that wants to partner with us can get access to a bridge that makes them money whenever anybody uses it. And it also strengthens the community of Umbria because it means that more bridging is happening. And so more volume is going through the bridge. And when more volume goes through the bridge, it means that our users that are providing liquidity to the system earn more fees as a result because the APY in our system goes up. Because the way that our the earnings occur in Umbria is that when someone bridges, there's a small fee associated with that bridge, and that fee is given to the people that are providing liquidity to the liquidity pools of the system. And so the more bridging we see in the system, the stronger the bridge will be because the higher the APYs for all the assets that are being bridged will be.
Yeah, and it actually looks like you have some pretty good APYs on all of that. I'm wondering if perhaps maybe you'd like to show us a bit of a demo of Umbria.
Yeah, sure. I can show you around the website. I can just share my screen, and then I'll show you a little bit about the website and how it all works. Let me
Be
jump in.
great.
Can you see my screen? Can everybody see this?
That looks good.
Yep. So this is the front page, and it's just explaining a little bit about our roadmap and what we plan on doing over the next, over this year. And so everything we've done, everything here on Q1 has been completed. So we've added a whole bunch of new bridges this year, which is very exciting. We've also added Arbitrum and Optimism in Q2 and released our Bridge Widget V2, which was the widget we were just talking about that any community can integrate into their website. And one of the things that we're very excited about, which will be coming up quite soon, is the increase of bridge connectivity that we're going to be doing. So as I was talking about before, integrating Polygon as the hub for our bridge instead of Ethereum, so that we can increase the speed of bridging, but also reduce the cost. So that's basically a bit of a roadmap of what we're doing in 2022 and a little bit of 2023 as well. As far as the website goes, this is the area of the website known as the staking pool, and that can be found at bridge.umbria.network/staking pool. And here you can see all the different assets that you can provide liquidity to in the bridge and receive APY as a result. And so each one of these represents one asset on one particular bridge. And so we have, you can bridge Ethereum, for example, to a whole host of different areas. So you can go from Ethereum to Polygon, Ethereum to Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche, all of the different places. And if you add liquidity to one of these bridges on the Ethereum mainnet, you receive a reward anytime someone bridges where the destination is the Ethereum blockchain. So for these particular assets, this one here is Ethereum on the Ethereum Polygon bridge. So if anyone bridges from Polygon's blockchain to the Ethereum blockchain and they move Ethereum over, you receive a reward. And right now the APY for this particular pair, I guess you could say, is 4.4%. But for some of them we have 10, 11% for Ethereum, and then we also have 11% for Umbria as well. And so there's a whole host of different options depending on what cryptocurrencies you're interested in. and what you'd like to hodl in our system.
Tell them a bit about Umbria as well and how that works.
Yeah, so Umbria is a special token in our system as well. And so when you bridge in the Umbria ecosystem, the fee associated with bridging is 0.5%. And 0.2% of that 0.5 goes to the liquidity provider of the underlying asset. So for example, if you bridge ETH, 0.2% of that 0.5 fee goes to the ETH liquidity providers. And the other 0.3% of that 0.5 goes to people that are staking Umbria in the system. So if you're staking Umbria in the Umbria bridge and somebody bridges Tether, for example, you receive a small amount of Tether every time that happens. If somebody bridges USDC, you, as an Umbria staker, earn some USDC every single time that happens. And so as an Umbria staker, you're going to receive a whole host of different assets all the time as people are bridging. And one of the exciting things about that is we're adding new assets all the time to this bridge. And so we believe that that's going to strengthen the offering for Umbria stakers and Umbria providers of this system as we add more options for bridging, add more bridges as well. It just gives more streams of assets to the Umbria stakers in the system. So one of the things that we're doing right now is we're adding USDC to all of the different bridges that we have available. Right now it's available on Ethereum, Polygon, and Binance Smart Chain, but we're rolling it out to Avalanche. Sorry, Avalanche is actually already completed, and then we're going to be rolling it out to Phantom and Arbitrum and Optimism quite soon in the future. So that's basically how this pool system works. All you have to do is click the add liquidity button, and then your MetaMask will pop up and you can decide how much of the asset you'd like to stake. And there's also no lockup period or anything like that. So you can take out your liquidity anytime you like, and you start earning as soon as you stake. So as soon as people start bridging the assets that you've staked and you're in the pool, you start earning it immediately. So that's basically how the staking system works.
Show them the sweep feature.
There's also another feature called the Umbria Sweep feature. And this is an interesting feature because essentially when you stake Umbria, or stake any asset for that matter, you might earn a very small amount of an asset that isn't enough for you to withdraw, because you might try to withdraw and the withdrawal cost in gas might be 50 cents on Ethereum to withdraw your asset, but maybe you only have 40 cents of that asset, or maybe you have a couple of dollars, but you don't want to spend all of that gas and consume all the fees you've earned in gas. So what you can do is you can click this sweep feature here, and it converts all of your little dust amounts in the system into Umbria so that you can consolidate all of your assets into one place so that you can then withdraw those assets and then sell them on an exchange or do whatever you want to do with those assets. And so that's basically how the staking system works in Umbria. We also have the main meat and potatoes of the system, which is the bridge. And it's very simple.
Sorry, can I just interrupt? Did you mention, could you go here about the sort of no impermanent loss? Because I think that's quite a big
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. So one important distinction about staking in Umbria when compared to staking in something like Uniswap or any staking platform that has pairs where you stake, Umbria doesn't have the impermanent loss associated with staking because you're only staking one asset at a time. And so the way that works is essentially when you stake on Uniswap, you're staking a pair of assets. Maybe the pair is Ethereum and basic attention token. So in that instance, basically when you're providing liquidity, you're providing liquidity as a ratio of those two assets. So maybe you're providing $1,000 of Ethereum and $1,000 of basic attention token. And then you receive an LP token as a receipt, which proves that you have ownership of a portion of that pool. Well, if one of those assets, let's say Ethereum doubled in price, that basically means that people have been swapping Ethereum, swapping their basic attention token for Ethereum, and they've been taking Ethereum out of the pool and they've been adding more basic attention token into the pool. And what that means for you as an LP provider, you actually have less Ethereum now associated with your LP tokens and more basic attention token. And so even though the price of Ethereum has doubled, you actually don't have as much Ethereum as you used to in the pool, which basically is what impermanent loss is. So you lose a lot of the upside associated with holding those assets because the amount of each of those two assets you have in the pool is fluctuating all the time. And that impermanent loss can be substantial. And if a token in a pool moons, you can actually lose a huge amount of the upside potential that you would have had if you just held the token instead of providing liquidity. And we realized that was a really big problem with staking. And so we've devised a new mechanism which only requires you to stake one asset. And so if that asset goes to the moon, you still have all of those assets in the pool and you don't suffer any impermanent loss. So you get to keep all of the upside of having that asset going up in value as a effect of the market, but you also earned all of the APY that you would associate with staking that asset in our pool as well. So it's basically like the best of both worlds, being able to get all of the APY from having the asset in the pool and not having to worry about losing any of that asset when it goes to the moon. So that's a really important distinction when comparing this staking to something like Uniswap. I personally think that this kind of staking is a lot safer because you don't really have to worry about crazy market volatility, meaning that you lose half of your tokens that are in the pool. So that's basically how our staking pool works. And then, Oscar, if you'd like to discuss a little bit about bridging and talk about how bridge works.
Yeah, so basically this is the bridging page, our main bridging page on Umbria. And you can see that it's a really nice interface. You can bridge from, let's say, Ethereum to Avalanche, and you can bridge maybe to Binance Smart Chain, or maybe you want to bridge to Polygon, and you can select from a range of assets that we currently support. So there are two ways to bridge. One of the ways is if you have MetaMask installed on your device, you can put how much you want to bridge and then click the send with MetaMask button. A pop-up will come up and you'll be able to bridge. Another way you can bridge is by clicking the get bridge address button. So let's say you want to bridge 1 Ethereum from the Ethereum mainnet to the Polygon chain. Once you get the bridge address, you can just send funds directly to that address using any wallet that you choose, or that you have. Maybe that might be Coinbase wallet, that might be a MetaMask wallet on your mobile, but you're using the bridge on a PC. And then the bridge will automatically know that you're trying to send those funds to Polygon, and those funds will pop out on the other side on Polygon in your wallet automatically. So it's a very simple bridging DApp to use. It doesn't take much thought, and you're able to bridge from quite a number of different chains. Further than that, that's pretty much all there is to it. You can bridge any of the assets that are available on any of the chains, and bridging normally takes between like 1 and 3 minutes, whereas on many of the other bridging platforms, to reach finality, it might take 30 minutes to an hour. So it's way faster than any of the bridging platforms. And there's another advantage to it as well, that you can actually send the native asset of a chain using our bridge. So if you look at some of the other bridges that are popular in the space right now, many of them can't actually bridge native assets like Ether on ETH or Matic on Polygon. They have to bridge some kind of wrapped version, which might not be the actual final version that you want. One of the advantages with the Umbria Nani bridge is that you can actually bridge the native asset. So if I was on the Polygon chain, for example, and I wanted to bridge back to Ethereum, if I bridge wrapped Ethereum from Polygon, it will pop out on Ethereum as Ether in my wallet, not wrapped Ethereum in my wallet. So that's one of another advantage of the Umbria bridge.
So that's pretty much everything anyone would need to know about the Umbria bridge. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have about how that all works. How do I stop sharing that? There we go. And if anyone has any questions about it, I'm more than happy to answer.
Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of questions in the chat. Yeah, it was really cool seeing all the advantages of your DApp. I think the Umbria token staking is really nice, the way that all works. One thing I think we should talk about now that we've done an overview of everything is security. Like, just because in the past there's been the Ronin bridge exploit, I think it was Wormhole and Nomad. There's been like, I would say in the billions of dollars worth of like bridge exploits. So like, I don't know, maybe just like how are you guys dealing with the whole security side of things?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've really focused on, particularly in the beginning when we were laying down the base infrastructure for our system, is keeping security at the forefront of all of our design decisions. Yeah, we've seen a lot of very, very high profile hacks. Like you said, the wormhole bridge hack being probably the biggest one. And because all of this technology is so new, and people there's no standardized way of building a bridge. There's so many different people doing it in different ways. There's definitely like a lot of things to keep in mind when building something safely and securely. So one of the things that we've made sure to do is get externally audited. And so we've been audited by Certic, and we've also been internally audited as well, in-house. And we think that this is very important, that you get externally audited as much as you can, because it's always good to have a fresh fresh bunch of eyes on your technology and that kind of thing. Another thing that we take very seriously as well is all of the infrastructure pieces that are running the bridge don't actually have to be front facing to the community. And so the Oracle system that is essentially reading the blockchain information for our bridge and handling finality and that kind of thing doesn't actually talk to any front-facing users or anything like that. All it does is has a secure connection to two blockchain endpoints, and so it doesn't actually have to talk to anything on the internet aside from these two endpoints, which have been like heavily secured. And so one of the things that we've seen in the space is when people get hacked, it's often not a hack due to like a technical implementation or something like that that's been implemented wrong. It's often a social engineering problem as much as it is a technical engineering problem. And so keeping that in mind as well, we've been very lucky so far that we haven't been we haven't succumbed to any attacks. Of course, we have been attacked many times, and we are under constant attack, just like any other DeFi platform. But yeah, we've been very lucky so far that we haven't had any critical or even moderate or severe issues so far.
Something I can say as well about the actual technical implementation of our bridge is that unlike many bridges that are constrained by the immutability of certain smart contract paradigms, our bridge Oracle system is actually upgradable, maintainable. If something, if a vulnerability is spotted by a member of our core team or a member of the community, and they tell us, we'll be able to update our Oracle system and push a patch to it within minutes, or shut it down and make it impossible for anybody to use it within minutes. And that's just something that many bridge platforms are not able to do due to the nature of their smart contract implementation. And so we're at quite a nice advantage compared to the other folks making bridges, because we're actually able to jump in and fix anything that might be going wrong if that ever did happen.
Another great thing about the Umbria Networks bridge is that it's very capital efficient. And so we don't really need to have hundreds of millions of dollars of assets locked to be a very efficient bridge. Right now, we can bridge 20% of all of the assets locked, every single block in the best case. And so that facilitates, even with only a few $1 million locked, a huge amount of bridging potential and enough assets to bridge 99.999% of requests that we handle. And so I would say that the Umbria bridge, at least compared to something like the Wormhole bridge, just isn't a target for some of these really high-profile hacking groups, because the payoff for hacking our bridge would only be in the order of a few million when compared to something like Wormhole, which was hundreds and hundreds of millions. And so being able to kind of fly under the radar a little bit by having a very capital efficient bridge that doesn't need to have all of these assets to function properly has really been a security feature as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, being more capital efficient, not having like such a big target for an exploit. Yeah. So we got a user asking a question. He's saying, one of the next steps for Umbria Network is an any-chain oracle. From what I remember, it was planned to make this hub run through Polygon. Is this still the plan? What are the advantages for this?
Yep, that's still definitely the plan. So that's currently under development right now and will become the main hub for bridging in our system. So the main advantages for an any-to-any bridge hub is that it basically increases the efficiency of the routing of your assets. And so the gas cost for bridging will be less, and also the time for bridging will be less, because finality will be achieved much quicker. And so that's basically the main project that we're working on right now that's under development. And we're very excited about that because we think that it's really going to reduce the cost of a lot of bridge routes that are still cheap and probably the cheapest that are possible right now in the space, but we can make them even cheaper. And so, for example, once we've implemented the any-chain to any-chain bridge, we're going to be able to bridge between something like Polygon to Avalanche for a few cents, and you'd be able to bridge just as much of an asset as you can right now in the Umbria ecosystem. So you could bridge 100 Ethereum if you wanted between Polygon and Avalanche, and it would cost much less than it's costing right now in Umbria. So that's definitely something we're incredibly excited about.
Sweet, yeah, that is really exciting. Could you tell us, we had a user asking about Oracle, so I'm wondering if you could like elaborate about how oracles are used within the platform right now?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, the way that the Umbria bridge works is we have a whole host of blockchains that we support, and then we have an Oracle system which is connected to all of these blockchains and reading blockchain events that have already happened are confirmed inside blocks. So if somebody would like to bridge from Ethereum to Polygon, they would send a transaction to the Oracle. That transaction will then get confirmed by the Ethereum blockchain. After a few block confirmations, the Oracle, which is scanning the blockchain all the time, will then notice that there is a transaction inside a confirmed block that has a certain number of confirmations. And when it has the certain number of confirmations, it can be considered to be like finalized on the Ethereum blockchain. And then the Oracle handles that transaction by seeing, how much of an asset has been sent in, what type of asset it is, where does it need to go, and all of that kind of information that is required, and then sends that comparable asset on the other blockchain for that user. So you can think of the Oracle as kind of like a meta controller looking at all of these blockchains and then handling events as they are confirmed on each respective blockchain.
Fantastic. By the way, guys, if you have any questions for Barney or Oscar, make sure you just drop them in the chat and I'll read them out. One thing I think like we should go a bit more in depth on is the token and how it works. Like, you're showing us the staking, and that's really cool. Is there any other like important utilities for the token?
Well, the Umbria token is also a governance token. So we're currently working on our governance structure at the moment, which will enable our community to vote on proposals and initiate proposals based on how they feel the Umbria platform should move ahead in the future. And that will probably boil down to, which chains we add to our bridge ecosystem, which assets we add to our ecosystem. And I think ultimately, the Umbria token is just going to be a way to give the community a strong voice within our platform and make those strong decisions. At the end of the day, Umbria just wants to create the bridges that people want to use the most. And so if the community come along and say, we want you to add this bridge or that bridge, we want to be able to do that. But we need to have a mechanism such that we can fairly ask the community to vote on what currencies and what bridges they want to see next within our platform. And so the Umbria governance token is a great framework for that. And we're currently working on creating a nice user-friendly way for our Umbria holders to create proposals on that and also, vote on proposals and reach consensus that way.
Yeah, we want the Umbria project, to be as community-driven as possible. And so ideally, in the best case, when the community is big enough and strong enough, the original Umbria team will just be token holders and part of the governance model as voters and that kind of thing, but won't have any special privileges or anything like that. And we will, hopefully soon be able to release the Umbria project into the wild completely and have a fully fledged governance voting structure and be able to give all of the necessary permissions to run the system to smart contracts, and people will be able to vote on proposals, vote on changes, and all of that kind of thing without any centralized body at all.
Sweet, that's super exciting. I'm looking forward to that being implemented. What's going on with your profile picture? What is that?
Yeah, so these are the juiced Umbrian NFTs. And so basically there are, I think, is it 1,000, Oscar?
Yeah, 1,000.
Yeah, there's 1,000 juiced Umbrian NFTs. And essentially what we'd like to do with these Umbrians is make them part of the governance model in the future. And so people that have been with us since the beginning, that have juiced Umbrians, will be able to have special privileges in the system, potentially special voting rights and that kind of thing, and just a way to ensure that the Umbria ecosystem is governed by members of the community that have been here since the beginning, that really believe in the project and maybe didn't necessarily just buy a bunch of tokens for voting power or something like that, but really do believe in the core vision of Umbria and know the most about it as well.
But another specific thing that we wanted to do with our juiced Umbrian NFTs eventually comes back to the idea of the capital efficiency of our bridge. So basically our bridge needs a certain amount of liquidity, and once it gets that liquidity, it doesn't really need any more. And by having more liquidity that we need, we're really just reducing our security and becoming more of a target. So at a certain point in the future, when we feel like we have really adequate liquidity to facilitate any number of bridges that we're going to have. We're hoping to completely remove the ability for new people to add liquidity to our system, and then just restrict that to people who are holding the Umbrian NFTs, and say, all this APY that is generating, all these fee rewards that bridging is generating, we want those to go to our core community members. So what better way than the people who were there early on, who bought the NFTs or dropped the NFTs, and give our core community members the opportunity to benefit the most from the staking mechanism. Because ultimately, we don't actually need very much liquidity in our system. It's really, once we get to about $10 million, which we've had before, we really don't need any more liquidity than that. And when at the peak of crypto interest last cycle, we found that the APYs for some of our assets, like Ethereum, went up to about 100% with no impermanent loss. And we would like for the system to be that fruitful again in the future, and we're sure it will be. So what better way than to reward our core community members who are holding the Umbrian NFTs when that should come about?
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to implement. That's really exciting to do. Um, yeah, it sounds like you guys have a really strong community, and I love the artwork of all of those NFTs. So
Yeah,
what's
absolutely. We have a really strong community on our Discord and some core members that have been with us from the beginning. And one of the things I've really enjoyed about working with the Umbria DAO and with everyone in the community and with the team is just how much community-driven development there's been. People implementing dashboards for looking at analytics on their earnings in the staking pool and things like that, and looking at the cost of bridging over time and that kind of thing. It's really interesting just to see how different people in the community have been tackling these problems in their own kind of special way.
Yeah, for sure. Um, what is like what's in the roadmap right now for you guys?
Yeah, so right now we're working on is adding some stable coins to all of the new bridges that we've recently implemented. And so we'd like to have a USDC available on all of our blockchains that we are able to bridge to as soon as possible. And we think that this is going to be really useful for the community, because a lot of people like to hold their assets in stable coins. They like to use stable coins mainly for interacting with marketplaces and things like that. So we think we'll see a nice uptick in usability and volume once we've implemented USDC, first of all, on all of the blockchains. After that, we're going to talk with the community to see if they want us to add any more stablecoins beyond USDC. But we don't think that people will care that much about adding other stablecoins yet, but maybe in the future. After that, we're going to be continuing development on our any-to-any bridge and moving our main hub from the Ethereum blockchain to the Polygon blockchain, so that we can then reduce the cost even further of bridging and also increase the speed of bridging to some of those further away outlying blockchains in this space.
Sweet. That's exciting. What would you say is your like key competitive advantages that help you like stand out from other bridges?
Well, definitely the fact that we're a lot faster and a lot cheaper for bridging. I think those have been the major factors that have enabled our system to facilitate so much bridging to layer 2 platforms. Before Umbria came around, to bridge to Polygon, you would have to use the official Polygon bridge. And when the gas prices were really high, that might cost $100 or $200. And then when Umbria came along, we really reduced the cost of that bridging down to single digit amounts. But not only that, instead of taking an hour to bridge, it would only take 2 to 4 minutes. So I think people really love that, not only getting their assets to Polygon and back again for way cheaper than was previously possible, but the fact that they were able to do so in minutes rather than it taking an hour was also sort of a lot less scary for the users as well. I remember when I first used the Polygon official bridge, I thought I'd lost my assets because they hadn't arrived in my wallet after a long time. And I feel like a lot of users who were as naive as I was at the time about the bridging process in general, because it was a new process, I think they would also find that experience quite scary as well. So to have an alternative there, like Umbria, that finishes up within just a couple of minutes, and then if anything goes wrong, there's human support just minutes away, to tell you that everything's okay and to prove that everything's working as expected. I think the users really appreciated that, and that's how we were able to become kind of the most popular bridging solution for lots of different chains so quickly.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I also think it's like really cool how easy it is to integrate like Umbria into one's own front end, and like how so many projects have already done that. Like I think that's fantastic. Um okay, cool. What
Barney, did you have a screen share for a couple of the integrations that we've done, just so you can so they can see how the widget's been integrated? For I think Crypto Raiders might be a good one, or Red
Yeah,
Village.
could you share your screen and just show the Crypto Raiders widget implementation?
I haven't got it ready. I thought, 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, Crypto Raiders, that's a cool project. That's a great partnership to have.
Yeah,
Um
it's been a real shame that a lot of projects that have launched on layer twos and scaling solutions like Polygon have had a really hard time bringing the community over to that ecosystem, because a lot of these projects who have implemented their systems on these layer twos, they're doing some really innovative work with regards to capitalizing on the scalability and the cost improvements of these scaling solutions. So there's things that you can do on these layer two chains that just aren't possible on Ethereum. Things like Zrun and gamifying all of the different aspects of cryptocurrency, which is just providing so much more new functionality to the space. So we think it's really important to onboard all of these new platforms that generally are not like terribly well funded and might need a little bit of extra development support. It's been a really great collaboration.
yeah, definitely. And did you say that the juiced Umbrians they're deployed on Polygon or Ethereum?
They're deployed on Polygon. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's exciting.
Yeah, we really think that Polygon has the potential to even overtake Ethereum in its popularity. It's because it's offering everything, in my opinion, that Ethereum offers, but then it has, fast finality, incredibly cheap transaction fees, and so there's not really any reason, in my opinion, these days to deploy something on Ethereum, because we have all of that infrastructure now to get or to onboard users onto Ethereum, onto Polygon, I should say, quite easily, and then we also can take advantage of all of the benefits of being on Polygon compared to Ethereum.
What first like what first put you onto Polygon? Like what first attracted you to this network?
I think the first thing that interests me about Polygon is that I watched a YouTube video about when Polygon was being implemented, and everything that was being discussed about how it was going to be faster and cheaper and inherit all of the EVM compatibility. It just made sense to have something that was orders of magnitude faster and cheaper, because as everybody knows, the problems with Ethereum, especially during bull runs and that kind of thing, is it just gets overloaded with transactions. It gets incredibly expensive. It's not fast to begin with anyway, and that's understandable because Ethereum is an old technology. It's been around for I think 7 or 8 years now, and it's a first of its kind as well. So it's not possible to get everything right the first time around. And so I just feel like Polygon is kind of like a version two. It's like it's a new version of a smart contract blockchain that looks at all of the things that Ethereum has done, looks at all the great things it's done, looks at all the things that maybe aren't so great, and then implement something that is an improvement. I can share my screen now, actually, Fran. I can't see yours loading. Maybe that's just a problem on my side. Can everyone else see?
I think it says I'm live, but it's not working. So if you could share on yours, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll just share mine, no problem. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so this is the Crypto Raiders website. Essentially, our widget is just a little iframe that you can connect to your website, and then you have the bridge there ready for anybody to use, just as they would use it on the Umbria website. The UI is slightly different. It works more like a wizard. and you can essentially choose like which blockchain you want to go to and from, which asset you would like to choose, how much you want to send, and then you click the bridge button. And assuming you have MetaMask on your browser, it just works exactly the same as the Umbria website.
Yeah, but even if you don't have MetaMask installed, you're still able to bring up a QR code from which you can, to which you can send funds from another wallet that's in your possession, maybe Coinbase wallet or something like that, some other kind of wallet, maybe on your mobile phone and you're using a PC. So yeah, you don't even really need to have MetaMask installed on your machine to use it, and everything can happen within the same website that you're trying to use. So for crypto raiders, you'll never have to leave the crypto raiders website. You'll just go to their bridge page, do your bridging in a couple of minutes, and then you'll be ready to go within their ecosystem, and really any ecosystem for any DeFi platform or any NFT platform. And something else that's really nice about this is that when you're using the bridge within their ecosystem, they're earning money for that as well. So you're helping support their platform by keeping the bridging within their platform as well.
Exactly, and we some of the platforms that have integrated the bridge are generating a reasonable amount of revenue from the bridging process, because some of these platforms do require quite a large amount of interoperability. Some of the big games on Polygon and on other blockchains require their users to be moving assets backwards and forwards all the time, and so we believe that this infrastructure is going to be useful to a lot more people that still haven't really realized that it's available, because this technology is so new. People are still kind of just discovering it, and crypto moves so quickly that there are hundreds of tools out there that you don't even know exist that are probably incredibly useful to you as a trader or someone who likes NFTs or whatever it might be. And so we believe, particularly when the next bull run comes around, all of this technology now that's become incredibly useful to the really hardcore crypto enthusiasts that know about all of this technology, it's going to become useful to the mainstream, and that's when I think we're really going to see a massive adoption of Umbria and also other infrastructure technologies like that.
Yeah, definitely. Um, a question coming in was regarding like the tokens that you have listed. How many tokens do you currently have listed, and like, are there plans to expand?
So what was the question? How many tokens do we have supported right now?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I think we have Ethereum, Matic, we have a couple of stablecoins, so USDC, USDT. We have the Ghost token for all of my Aavegotchi friends out there. And then we also have wrapped Bitcoin as well. And I think that's everything right now. If the community really want us to add any particular asset, we're more than happy to add anything that they require. One of the things that we really care about right now is just being useful to our community. And so if there's something that's very obvious that people want and need, yeah, we're more than happy to talk about it in the Discord and then add that asset for them. We found that the main assets that people seem to be bridging, not only on our system, but like on any bridging system, typically are Ethereum as the main one, and then the stable coins, things like USDC tends to be the main one, and then USDT, and potentially DAI as well might be something that we look at in the future. But yeah, anything that people want enough, we're more than happy to integrate.
Fantastic. Well, there you go, Hermes. He was suggesting Sand or Mana token. Um, I guess my next question, it's more of a personal question, but like, what are you personally like doing in the DeFi space? Like, what dApps do you enjoy on your own time?
For me personally, I'm currently waiting for CryptoPunks to go down a little bit in price. Let's say if we see another dip in the market, I think hopefully I would like to get myself a CryptoPunk, because I think, well, it's my personal opinion, they're probably the best NFT to have if you're a developer in the space. And so I would be excited to get my hands on a CryptoPunk if they go down in value a little bit.
Yeah, for me, like I really like some of the OG lending platforms and that kind of thing. So things like Compound, I think are really interesting technology, and what they've done with governance as well is also very exciting, and has become kind of like the standardized format for governance across the cryptocurrency space. So any application that like introduces some new interesting technology, I really like that, and so I would say Compound is one of them. I also have some Aavegotchi land and things like that. So that's always they're also one of our partners as well. So definitely excited about their platform and all the innovations that they're doing. But yeah, there's always so many interesting new DeFi and NFT and other things like that coming out all the time. I remember when ENS came out. I think that ENS is a very interesting project, and I think it's been very useful for a lot of people as well, being able to send crypto to somebody's ENS rather than a long string, which is difficult to remember or to type correctly. And so that's another. Any technology in the space that makes it more user friendly and more easy to use, I think, is going to be very helpful because it helps with the adoption of the technology. Because we're still so early in this space. I know it might not feel like we're early now compared to maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but there's still so many people not using cryptocurrency and so many people that could benefit from using cryptocurrency and still haven't discovered it for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. DeFi is definitely something to be really enthused about. A really good question coming in from Doob John. They're wondering, is there any risk to Umbria from the merge, and like, what are your thoughts about the merge coming up?
Luckily, the merge is pretty much a different layer of the blockchain compared to the Umbria ecosystem, if that makes sense. So it's going to be largely unaffected by the merge, unless something catastrophic happens to Ethereum, like there's a consensus problem or someone finds an exploit or something like that. Yeah, this is definitely like a very spicy time for Ethereum, and it's very difficult to know exactly what's going to happen when the merge fully finalizes. I think it's on the 16th of September. Yeah, everyone at Umbria is all hands on deck from a development perspective, prepared for any crazy thing to happen. If the Ethereum blockchain does grind to a halt, or if it hard forks, people start continuing to use the proof of work version of Ethereum or something like that, we're all prepared for those eventualities to happen. But yeah, it's just one of those things that kind of remains to be seen. This might be the end of Ethereum as we know it, or it might be an exciting new beginning. Who knows?
Cool. Is there anything that you want to talk about regarding Umbria that you haven't talked about already?
Just that very thankful for everyone coming to this chat, and very happy to see a lot of our community members in here as well. And keep an eye on this space because there's still a lot of development going on right now on building the any chain to any chain bridge, which is going to be very exciting. Anyone who has any questions or comments or who would like to get involved in any aspect of the Umbria community, whether it be as a developer, as someone who's an expert at marketing or anything like that, we're always very happy to discuss anything that you think would be a useful addition or improvement to what we have right now. And beyond that, if anyone has any support, we're always anyone needs any support, we're always available in the Discord for anyone who needs help bridging, if it's their first time or if they just want to know more about the protocol.
Something that I would talk about as well is that, even though we're in a little bit of a dip of interest in cryptocurrency in general, the Umbria bridge is still gaining popularity across many of our bridges. So, for example, if you look at the analytics of our Binance Smart Chain bridge, we're actually still increasing the number of bridging transactions that we're doing as a trend. Even though, as we all know, the sort of pump of interest in cryptocurrency is not what it was a few 6 months ago to a year ago. And so just as a ratio of interest in the cryptocurrency space compared to how much people are using Umbria, Umbria is still massively growing in popularity and massively growing in how it's being used across all of these different chains, in particular Binance Smart Chain. And as we add more chains to our ecosystem and more assets, we believe that's just going to continue to strengthen the use case of our system and the popularity of our system. So this is still a really exciting time for Umbria, even though in the cryptocurrency space in general, there's a little bit of a dip in interest. We're in a little bit of a crypto winter right now. So we're just very excited and very pleased to see that our system is still growing in popularity. It's still being used more and more every day. And I think it will continue to grow as we add more assets and more chains.
That's really bullish to hear that despite of everything kind of being on a downtrend, you guys are still growing. So that's really exciting. I've dropped all the links in the chat. So I got the Umbria Network website, Twitter, Telegram, Discord. So everyone knows where to follow up and how to get involved. Um, cool. This has been awesome. Really appreciate having all of you here today. Really enjoyed learning more about Umbria.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. It's been great to have a chat with you, and thank you everyone for listening to our chat. If anyone has any more things they'd like to talk about, we're more than happy to continue this conversation on the Umbria Discord channel, and we've got a big community there of people, so looking forward to having you all there.
Cool.
I think there was one more question that was being asked.
Oh, let me see here. What happens if one of the addresses that supply USDC liquidity gets sanctioned?
Yeah, so basically, what we're doing at Umbria is we have a list of blacklisted addresses essentially. For regulatory purposes, we're not allowed to interact with certain addresses that have been involved in suspicious activity with hacks and things like that. And so any user that may have been responsible for any of the most recent hacks and might be trying to like wash their assets into another blockchain, we have steps in place to stop that from happening. And of course, if somebody does get blocked for whatever reason, there's also a review process that we have. So anyone can make an appeal, and then we will manually go through any of those blocked transactions. So far, we haven't had any users be blocked by that. We haven't had any of the big hackers, any of their addresses try to go through the Umbria bridge. But we are prepared for that eventuality, just in case something like that does happen.
But with regards to USDC or USDT in general, if those assets get shut down by some regulatory body, I think Umbria's interaction with those assets will be the least of your concerns. If USDC gets shut down, USDC is dead. It's not really anything to do with Umbria. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think those two things are really related per se. The thing that matters with regards to users and Umbria is whether those addresses have already been blacklisted by regulatory bodies. And when an address does get blacklisted like that, it's pretty standard for for a DApp to restrict access to that address in general. So it wouldn't just be Umbria operating in some strange, weird and wonderful way. We would just be following suit with what the sort of standard practice for that would be. And if the standard practice is to block an address that has been involved with hack, and if we're encouraged to do that from a regulatory perspective, then we'll be following the regulatory guidelines for that.
Yeah, that makes sense to do. Okay, cool. Any other questions? I think we got all of them. Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good one. Are there like any complications with setting up a bridge from an EVM network to a different type of network like Solana or Cardano or any networks like that?
Yeah, definitely. One of the main problems is that the wallets aren't compatible. And so, for example, if you bridge from Ethereum to Polygon, you're bridging from one address, and then the Oracle can send your assets again to the same address on the other blockchain. That's not possible if you're using something like Cardano on the other side. And in fact, Cardano is particularly difficult because of the UTXO model, their bespoke UTXO model that they use, which restricts an address sending any assets more than once per block, and having to custom build the UTXOs when building a raw transaction, much more complicated on Cardano, for example, compared to something like Ethereum. And luckily, we found that some of these other blockchains like Cardano haven't been as popular as some of the EVM chains like Polygon. And so that's, I guess, been a bit of a blessing in a way. But when we do come to implementing some of those other blockchains that are a bit more bespoke, it will just be a matter of a user, when they bridge, also signing a transaction which tells the Oracle which address they want to receive those assets on as well. And then from a user perspective, it shouldn't be that much more complicated to bridge. It'll just require one more input field where you have to specify where your assets will end up.
Another consideration is security. So all of these EVM compatible chains, like Polygon, Avalanche, Phantom, Arbitrum, they're all quite similar. There are some subtle differences to their implementations and how they behave, but for the most part, they are quite similar. So when you add a new chain as a developer, when we add a new chain to Umbria, we have a first set of sort of standard security practices that apply to all of the chains, and then we can get into the sort of finer details and go from there. But if we're going to add something like Solana or Cardano, our entire testing suite, our entire security process is going to have to be completely different for the purposes of Solana or Cardano, compared to maybe Polygon as compared to Avalanche or something like that. And so there'd be a lot more work with regards to security for getting something like Solana or Cardano implemented on Umbria, but not impossible. But we think that the standard now, it seems, is the EVM model, the Ethereum virtual machine smart contract model. And a lot of the new sort of scaling solutions on Ethereum have adopted the EVM model. And we think across time, those are going to become the standard platforms on which dApps will be deployed. So we think that if we focus on the EVM stuff, that's the low-hanging fruit for our system. Those are the chains that are going to be widely used in the future. So we should be focusing on those. Not to mention, if you look at Solana and Solana's track record, they've implemented something really radical and awesome. But one of the caveats of that is that they've run into a lot of problems with reliability. And so we don't think that Solana has maturated enough such that we can rely on it to be stable and reliable and integrate it into our system. But you look at something like Polygon, it's a lot firmer, more grounded. It doesn't fall over every few weeks. And so we think it's gotten to the stage where, as Barney would say, battle tested and safe enough to add to our system. But we don't feel like Solana or Cardano is really there yet.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Maybe sometime in the future, we when Solana has been running and not had any major issues for a long period of time, if we can come to some sort of consensus with our community and we all agree that now is the time to add Cardano to our ecosystem, then we would be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be probably a future DAO proposal. Oh, looks like we still got more questions coming in. Now that other L1s will come using the programming language like Move, is there any plans on that in the future?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, so he's saying that there's going to be new L1s that will come using a programming language like similar to Move. What are your thoughts about that, I guess?
Well, we've already thought about adding, the classic layer one, which is Bitcoin, to our system, and that is something that might become higher in demand in the future. But for now, I think a lot of the people who are looking for bridging, they're really just trying to bridge between EVM compatible chains that have all of the different smart contract driven dApps on them. Like, let's say you want to be using Zrun 1 minute and now you finish your Zrun race and you have all of these assets. You don't want to do Zrun anymore. You want to maybe go to Uniswap on Ethereum and sell some coins, or you want to go to some other dApp on Phantom to do something else. These are all transactions that are going to be done on dApps. So if you look at cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, there aren't any dApps on Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin is like a one-dimensional asset. You can buy it, you can sell it, you can hodl it. That's pretty much all you can do with it. You can't interact with some complicated, interesting smart contracts on top of Bitcoin. So we think that people are bridging between, first and foremost, EVM compatible chains, because those are the chains that have all of these different interesting financial instruments on them. So that's where the demand is being driven from. If you look at another L1, I guess you could call it an L1 like Solana, it does have some interesting dApp stuff on there. So that's why Solana could be an interesting platform to bridge to. But for other L1s that don't necessarily have any sort of smart contract implementations or any interesting financial instruments on top of them, I don't see necessarily there being that much demand to bridge to those different places. You might want to go to an exchange and sell your Ethereum and get some Bitcoin, for example. But as far as bridging is concerned, I think that's a specific function for moving across different chains that support smart contracts and support different kinds of dApps.
Yeah, just quickly to add something onto the end of that as well, is that we're building bridges that we believe have the most use case and the most large communities that are looking to bridge over. So if there are some new L1s that might have a programming language that people can build dApps upon, and users want to bridge over there, if there's sufficient amount of people that are begging for that to be implemented, then we'll be happy to implement it. But for now, there are still blockchains that have hundreds of thousands of community members that we haven't implemented yet that might be lower hanging fruit for us right now. But if you're looking at Umbria adding a bridge to a particular blockchain and you have a compelling reason for us to add it, yeah, we'd definitely be interested in looking at your proposal.
Cool, that's super exciting, and that makes a ton of sense regarding like the criteria you look for when, looking for a good chain to bridge to.
Something that's interesting to think about as well is like a lot of these brand new EVM compatible chains that are coming out, like KuCoin Community Chain or Huobi Eco Chain. They have a lot of press, a lot of marketing, but as far as actual people using those platforms is concerned, there's very low amount of volume. Not that many people are interested in them, and particularly in this sort of cycle of the amount of crypto interest that's happening at the moment. A lot of the more exotic chains out there, they're not really being used that much. So something that should be a major focus for bridges right now is really figuring out what the most useful assets and what the most useful chains are right now. And in our opinion, it's going to be, for our system, adding all of the stable coins to the chains that have proven that people need to bridge on them. So Polygon, perfect example. Avalanche is another great example. So we're just going to be adding assets to the currently established bridges rather than probably going out into the exotic lands of strange chains and seeing if people will use them. Because for the most part, people haven't really been venturing as far out as, let's say, Optimism or Arbitrum. There's a little bit of interest on there, but it's nothing like Polygon.
Yeah, most definitely. And when you were talking about bridging Bitcoin, uh, were you like hinting at the like potential for a Umbria Bitcoin?
What do you mean by an Umbria Bitcoin?
Like kind of like how there's like wrap Bitcoin.
Oh, no, we wouldn't personally be interested in building any like our own personal wrap assets. We would just facilitate all of the like standardized wrapped assets that are already available because we believe that those are already so deeply embedded in the infrastructure of cryptocurrency that it's more usable by a community to just use the standardized tokens and that kind of thing.
Yeah, most definitely. I really appreciate you clarifying that. And yeah, no worries. That the AMA went on a little longer. Appreciate the good questions coming in. Um, with that said, yeah, we are a little over though. Perhaps we should get wrapping things up.
Yep, sounds good to me. Thank you everyone for coming and thank you everyone for all of your great questions as well.
Thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate it. Oscar and Bernie and Frankie, it's been great having all of you. Great meeting
Thank
all of
you.
you, and looking forward to doing this again sometime in the future.
Great, yeah, sounds good to me. All right, thank you very much for hosting.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Goodbye.